Hello guys, today I'm going to be talking about two of the middle and late age monkey nations. Those are Bandar Log and Patala. I'll do a little bit of overview of the two nations, talk about some of their strengths, some of their weaknesses in my experience, and also some strategy ideas. I'll mostly be focusing on Patala because that's the one I'm more familiar with. I quite like Patala a lot, and actually I won a game recently playing Patala, though again that was maybe a certain circumstances made it a little bit easier. I'm also currently playing a game as Patala, and while I'm not winning at the moment, we can take a look at that later. Also talk a little bit about Bandar Log as well. Both Bandar Log and Patala are very similar. They share similar national spells. Their unit lineup is almost the exact same with their mage lineup, but there are a few key differences that make them very different from each other. And they both have their own unique strengths and weaknesses. So first of all, let's take a look at both nations. I'm going to open up the God Creator. Let's take a look at Bandar Log first. And you can see Bandar Log and Patala are very, very similar to each other. Their unit lineup is almost identical. There's only a few differences between the two. The one being for Bandar Log, you have all these same units as Patala, except you also have the different cap-only mage, the Rishi. And he's a pretty strong mage. He's got Astral 3, Nature 2, and he can also random a few other paths as well, maybe up to Astral 4, maybe up to Nature 3. And then also Earth and Water. So this is all pretty good. The good thing about him is he naturally can get Astral and Earth, which is great for natively producing crystal gear, which is really useful for your mages here. Getting a lot of crystal gear and Astral boosters on all your little Astral mages like the Yogi or the Guru is really great to boost them up a little bit and boost up your communions in general. But beyond that, you can see the problem looking at Bandar Log because you don't have a lot of magic diversity. You've got a lot of Astral, and that's good. You can get a lot of these cheap little Astral mages, these Yogis, who are excellent communion slaves and even communion masters. Gurus also make great communion masters, and they're natural mind burners, so you can just pump out a ton of these guys and start mind burning pretty early in the game, which is again nice. They can also cast Swarm, which is also useful too, so these guys by themselves are already pretty decent. And of course the Rishi is pretty good as well, but again, you're lacking that variety and diversity that maybe the early age nations of Lanka and Kailasa have, where they have more earth, and in the case of earth and water in the case of Kailasa, as well as death and blood in the case and also air in the case of Lanka. Now, what Bandar Log does have going for it, the troops are not that great. These are all pretty flimsy troop. Monkeys in general are not great. You have the small monkeys, the Vanaras, and usually I don't recruit these that much. Sometimes I'll take the stealthy Atavi, just because they're forest recruit only. You can just find a forest and recruit a bunch of these guys. There's not really any point to them, except I like using them for patrolling or, taking provinces that maybe don't have any PD on them. You can get these guys with one of your stealthy Atavi commanders. Maybe a group of them if you see a province that is, has no PD on it, or like 1-2 PD. You can send a small stealthy group of these guys to quickly nab it, but other than that, I find them not that useful. Actually, one of the best options you have are these little guys. Now, these guys look like shit. They're very small, they're weak, they're flimsy, they die almost always in one hit. But the good thing about them is they're really, really cheap. 1 resource, 3 resource points, 5 gold. You can pump out a ton of these Makardas. And I love these guys so much. You can have a huge wall of these. And what they will do is they will die. But who cares if they die? They're expendable. But they will suck up a lot of hits, and they will just swarm enemies and really harass them while your big guys come around the back. So as I said, I don't really use Vanaras that much. If I am trying to use troops at all, I will probably go for Bandar. And the Bandar I like the most, especially in middle age and into late age as well, because these units are the same in late age, are this guy, the Bandar Warrior with the big iron cudgel. Now, Bandar are pretty strong, 15 strength, and decent attack skill as well. And they're also size 3, which is good. And this guy with the iron cudgel really, really hits hard. He's got decent armor, he's got a helmet, which is good, and he smashes guys. We'll take a look in a minute at a game I'm playing currently as Patala, and you'll see how these guys just smash through pretty much everything in front of them. Especially with a few buffs, these guys are pretty great. These are not bad. Beyond that, I also like the light Bandar warrior, even though he doesn't have a helmet. He's cheap and he's okay, but usually I would almost always rather go for this guy with the cudgel rather than the light warrior. You have the normal Bandar warrior, but I think between these two, the Bandar warrior with the shield and the mace, and the Bandar warrior with the cudgel, again, I tend to prefer this guy with the cudgel. These archers, in middle age, these naked light archers or the ones with some armor are not too bad. Longbows are kind of losing their power from early age, but still in middle age they can do well, so I'd sometimes use these. By late age, these are basically not useful, so I tend to not use them at all. And beyond these, you also have your sacreds. So Bandar Log is special because it does have some pretty good sacreds. You have the white one, who's, he's not bad. He's not that strong or that capable, but he is recruit anywhere, so that's something. And he can reincarnate, so whenever he dies, he will maybe add to your god, give him an extra magic path, or give an extra dominion candle, so that's always useful as well. So just recruit anywhere sacred. He's not that great, but recruit anywhere sacreds are not common, so you could think about this. The main thing to consider for Bandar Log is the Tiger Rider, so these guys are quite good. Now they're nothing compared to a Van in Vanheim, but they are still pretty strong, and when the monkey dies, you still have a sacred tiger that will attack. So these guys are a good consideration for expansion, and I have used these a few times for Bandar Log to expand and as a bulk of my armies. And last but not least, you have the War Elephant, and I really like War Elephants. Bandar Log and Patala have really shitty elephants, as in you have probably the worst elephants of any nation who does have them. Not much armor, not much protection beyond just his kind of naked body, but just a big size 6 trampler that does a lot of work, and I'll show you guys in a minute how you can put these elephants to use for expansion. So that's Bandar Log. We'll also talk about the national spells. The national spells for Bandar Log and Patala are identical, but let's quickly look at Patala. So let's go to late age. Now I like Patala a lot. Patala is seen as a weak nation, and it is in some ways, but I really, really like it a lot. The main difference here you can see is you have these Nagas. Now, these Nagas are summonable in both early, middle, and late age, so you can always summon them. But here you can also recruit them from your capital, and these Naga mages are really good. The Nagaraja is okay, he's a good leader. He could be a light thug. The earth and nature path with some water. With a boost, he can summon water elemental, so he's not bad. And he's holy too, so that's also useful. The Nagini is really good. You trade one holy path, which I think is a good trade, for a random, which gives you an extra either nature, earth, water, or astral. And all of these are pretty useful, especially the water 3s, because you can start casting water elementals right out the box, so you don't need to boost or anything like that. So I like these a lot. I try to get tons and tons of Nagini whenever I play Patala. And the last one that is really special is the Nagarishi. Now this is a huge deal in late age. This is a mage with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 paths with a 10% chance to get a 10th path. Now that is really, really something in late age. Most mages in the late age, you'll get a cap-only mage with like 2 in one path, one or 2 in another, and that'll be it. So getting a 9-path mage in the late age is really, really something. And all these paths are very useful. They're great for crafting. I get a couple of these guys. Now I don't get too many, but I get a couple of these guys and use them mostly for crafting or casting some bigger spells. These are good and they're useful, but in general, I'd probably rather stick to recruiting Nagini almost every turn, because they're just more useful as army, accompanying mages, and general casters, while Nagarishis are more suitable for casting bigger spells, boosting up, and also for crafting things. Beyond that, you can see the lineup is almost always the same. All these units are the same as the Middle Age, and These three mages return again, the Brahmin, the Yogi, and the Guru. They're the exact same as before, and in almost every other fort I have, I'm going to be recruiting these two, depending on how much money I have. These are both great, useful. You still have a lot of benefits from astral communions, and I tend to like to take a penetration bless with Patala or Bandar Log, just because you're always going to be using communions, and it just benefits a lot. Everything I said about the units is the same as Bandar Log. I really like Makarta. They're great, just meat shields and harassment harassers. I also like the Bandar Warriors. Now, they're not as useful as Middle Age, just because in Late Age, there's crossbows everywhere that will cut right through the armor, but still a big, hard-hitting Iron Cudgel Monkey Man is always useful. The other ones are all the same, and you also have your two Sacreds. Now, I tend not to really use the Sacreds much. I think in a game I'm currently playing, I'm basically ignoring both of these two. Maybe I'm getting these cheap Nagas only because these are cave recruits, so I do have a few cave forts, and I'm just recruiting them for having some amphibious, blessable troops, but I don't really rely on these at all. However, I will show a quick game, test game, where I did try to make a Naga build and make them somewhat useful. We'll take a look at that. It's not been that successful, and I think I would prefer just to go with my general Mage Bless and focus on mostly expanding with elephants instead. So those are the two nations, and we'll talk a little bit about the national spells quickly before we look at some test games, and then I move into a multiplayer game I'm playing currently as Patala. So these are the national spells of both Patala and Bandar Log. All the spells are the same for both of them, and you have quite a lot of useful ones. For one thing, you have the Kantak Yaksha and Yakshini. These two are recruitable mages for Kailasa in the early age. Yaksha, let's take a look at that one. Oops. Yaksha is a earth mage, a fairly big earth mage, so this is quite useful for you. You definitely want some good earth mages as Patala and Bandar Log, but 25 gems is fairly steep. You definitely need a lot of gem income. As Bandar Log specifically, I really like to get Mother Oak if I can. For Patala, it's less necessary since you do have the recruitable Naga mages who also could be useful earth mages as well. So it's not as much of a priority, but still getting these is quite useful as well. Again, for Patala, I don't put as much emphasis on these guys. The Yakshini, let's take a look at that one. The same, just 3 water. Again, for Bandar Log, this is great. For Patala, 3 water is easy to get, so I would probably never call for this one. Let's get rid of these guys. Beyond that, you have a few of your astral summons. The summon Asparas, I basically don't use these. Asparas suck. They basically a naked kind of sacred. Beyond being sacred and having awe, there's not really much that great about them. I probably won't cast these. They were very cheap, so maybe you could use them somehow. I don't really know. I've never used them much. Beyond that, you have the Gandhavaras, who are fairly expensive. They're basically Asparas, except they do have a bit of armor, so they are a little bit more useful. And you do get 6+ of them, so, not too bad. I have used these a few times as an additional kind of sacred to add to the army, but I would never really summon these too much. The next ones you have the Kinara, the Siddha, Devata, and Devala, and Rudra. These are all your commanders. Now, the Kinara is very useful. This gets you some air magic and get air into communions. This is a flying sacred commander, and really, really useful. You can turn this into a little bit of a thug. You can fly him around and have him support your armies by summoning air elementals or a lot of other things. The Siddha, let's quickly look at him. He's another air mage. I would probably not use him as much. I think at Conjuration 7, I find the Kinara is just a little bit better use of your gems than this guy. He does have teleporting, but teleporting and flying, I find it's not that much of a difference. The main other one here, let's take a look for him, is the Rudra. So if you ever get to Conjuration 9, this could be an option too. This is a big Death Air Mage. that could be an amazing thug. Death, Air, Fire. Death, Air, and Fire are things you don't get either in either in Bandar Log or Patala. So if you do get to the point where you're going Conjuration 9 and you want to start summoning these guys, these could be a great late game option for you. But again, that's very late game, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. The next part is the blood summons. So as Bandar Log and Patala, you always have to consider if you're going to be going blood or not. I always like to go blood as Patala for sure, and Bandar Log, it depends what my strategy is, but definitely for Patala, I want to get blood summons going eventually. And the main reason why, you have a lot of these troop summons, and I don't use these too much. You could use the Asparas. These do have a kind of hidden blood hunting ability. I don't know if it shows it here, but if you make these into commanders, they will have, I believe, Blood 1 as a path, Blood 1 and Holy 1. So these could be an option for getting some blood hunters, but that depends if you have a Divine Name or some other spell that can turn a unit into a commander. The main reason I like to go blood is to get Dakinis. Now this is another air commander, Sacred Flying commander, with Blood 3, Air 3, Death 1. So this is really excellent for you, as both Patala and Bandar Log. Gets you into death, gets you some great air magic, so natural air elemental summoner, and great blood magic, so these guys will be very good blood hunters. So these are excellent troops, and they can be amazing thugs as well. So getting these is definitely worth it to go into blood at all. And get a couple of these guys out, start blood hunting. You can have a lot of blood slaves very quickly. Beyond that, you have a few other ones here. This is the Sacred Assassin, I believe. I wouldn't use this too much. I guess if you really need to kill something, but the other one I would consider is the Mandeha. But again, for the price of this and going Blood 8, you're probably better off going for the Dakini, getting a bunch of Dakinis out. And a few others here that are not that relevant. You have a few death summons. These are not that useful for you as Bandar Log or Patala, but you know, it could be worth going Death 1 or Death 2 if you have a few extra points on your Pretender, just to maybe search for death gems, search for death sites, and maybe cast these as a little bit of support. Host of Ganas are ethereal ghost monkeys, so these are kind of a nice little support, and you do get a lot of them, so it is pretty worth it if you do take death on one of your Pretenders or empower in death. And the Patalas are also a kind of ghostly Bandar, and they do have a second form, so once they die once, they will have another form. So they're very good support chaff, and could be an option as well, again, if you take Death 2. But let's get out of here, and we're going to take a look at a game. So I have a few test games going. First, I'm going to take a look at... let's get out of here. There we go. So this is a test game I started showing Elephant expansion. So here's my first expansion party going out, and Patala has a very shit starting army. You get a few Atavi infantry, which are terrible. You get some Makardas, which are also terrible, and I added a few war elephants in. That was about it. But let's take a look here. You can see some Atavi died. They didn't really do much. The Makardas didn't do much. The war elephants did a lot, and we'll see exactly how elephant expansion works. So the main thing is I want to kind of stagger them a little bit. I want the elephants to hit them after this army hits this kind of chaff here. These guys, I'm not expecting them to do much. They're just supposed to stand there and take the hits a little bit while these guys run around the back and trample everybody. So let's take a look here, what happens. I keep a few other units with these guys to help them not get ahead of everyone else. See, again, hopefully they will go in the back of these units. Let's speed this up a little bit. Yeah, they're going to run around and hopefully trample all their commanders. Yeah, there they go. Yeah, and that's it. They may have even trampled some of my monkeys, but it's not a big deal. Monkeys are replaceable. So that's great, and looks like all of these guys came out without any injuries. Elephants get injuries very, very easily, so that's why you don't want them to be attacked. you want them to run in the back and just trample everybody and not get hit themselves. But that's the basics of elephant expansion. If I want to expand any more, let's send this guy out somewhere. This army we'll send somewhere else, maybe down here. And what we'll do is we'll make another army of some elephants. Plus a few these light Bandar guys. Actually, let's make a few Makarta. Makarta, these cheap Makartas are great, again, just as filler trash. Fill in the lines a little bit. Here, I might have to wait a minute before making that. Let's make just a few Bandar for now. Some Makartas. And I'll make a Yogi as well. So we'll see how this goes. I'll do a few turns here. And then we'll take a look at an online game that I'm currently playing. Alright. These guys did fine. Let's take a look again at how the elephants do. So same thing again, these guys are going to get hit first. The elephants are going to run around and just trample everybody. Yep, there we go. Now this does take a little bit of finesse. You have to position the troops properly. You have to avoid the elephants getting injured. So this guy got a limp. He's going to be a big of a problem later. Alright. You do have to position everything effectively and be careful where you put all these units. Make sure the elephants don't get hit too hard. But if you can manage that and manage the positioning pretty well, you can pretty easily expand into most indies. Aside from anything like other elephants or any kind of other unique provinces with some kind of giant units, the elephants do a great job of just trampling everybody. You can see my army set up here. I've lost quite a lot of the Atabi, so I may have to send these guys back. But, oops. You can see I just tried to split up like this, so the Makarta hit first, these guys run in second, and then the elephants run in the back. So I may have to send these guys back at the moment. They're losing a lot of troops, so I'm going to send these guys back to the capital, get a few more troops for them, and then we'll send another army out. Let's make a few elephants here, and a few more Makarta. It looks like I don't have enough for a mage. I guess I'll cheap out for a moment. Let's try one more turn here. Okay, great. Alright, and this guy will be back. We can regroup that army there. In the meantime, I'll recruit some other mages here, maybe start getting some Nagas or Naginis out. There, something like this should be excellent. Let's try one more turn. I'll do one more turn attacking this throne. Quite a lot of units. We'll see how well the elephants do against a much larger army. So let's add these guys here, these guys here, these guys here. So we've got a big army here. Let's give one of these guys to help as well. Now, do you have any spells? Yeah, Twist Fate. So we can actually have this guy cast a few buffs onto the elephants, and hopefully that'll make them a little bit more effective. Elephants are great for another reason, because they're really easy to buff, and Bandar Log has a lot of nice little buffs that are useful for them. So going down Alteration, I'd like to go down to at least Alt 3, maybe Alt 4 eventually for getting Luck, Protection, and Body Ethereal. Now these three spells are all point buffs, Area of Effect 1, so 1 square only. But having one of your yogis or your gurus casting these few spells on the elephants will make them very scary. Lucky ethereal elephants are terrifying. They will just crush everybody, and even in multiplayer, if your opponent is not expecting it, they are in for a very painful wake-up call if they get a ton of elephants rushing them down that are not only lucky but ghostly as well. So let's send this army in. This will be the last round. I don't think I'm going to bother to recruit anything else. Let's get another Naga and then a few Bandar. We'll see how this army does, and then I think we'll move on to taking a look at my online game now. Alright, and great job. 70 all dead. a lot of deaths by the elephants, and even the Bandar warriors do quite well. Like I said, these light Bandar warriors are pretty good. They don't have a helmet, but in general, they're quite useful. So this was a pretty decently sized army, no crossbows, and that's great because crossbows really kill Patala and Bandar Log. But let's take a look at the battle, and then we'll move on to a multiplayer game. So here's a perfect setup of the elephant expansion party. I have a little monkey back here giving these elephants a few buffs. I have a big clump of Bandar, and then I have a bunch of Makardas who are just going to run in and cause trouble. So let's speed that up and play. Okay, there they go. And these elephants, oh, uh-oh. Oof. That's a big problem. Ooh, they almost ran right through my own troops. This is another problem with elephants, is you have to be really, really careful with their placement. If they get scared, if they rout, they will just run back and trample all of your own troops. So this is a problem in real life with elephants. This is why a lot of ancient armies stopped using elephants. Having the elephants run back and crush your own men is very, very terrible. So be careful about that. But, you know, here they did a good job. They killed 81 units. Some of those units might have been mine, but it looks like most of them were the enemy, so that's not too bad. Considering there's only 72 units for the opponent, probably they did kill some of mine. Alright, so I'm going to end this game here. Let's quit. Now let's take a look online. So here's an online game I'm playing anonymously with Dominion's General on 4chan. Let's take a look at the game here. So this is pretty far, year 2. Quite a lot of junk happening here. Now I've had an okay expansion in this game. You can see I'm not too big, but I've been able to expand pretty well. I'm at the moment moving towards the west and attacking Flegra. He's almost done. He's got 1, 2, 3 provinces. I'm currently sieging his capital, and I'm going to just take out these couple of giants over here, these sea ogres, and then hopefully come back here. I hope he doesn't attack these guys stationed here, but they do have enough gems and enough units at the moment that they should be able to take whatever he has left, and these guys will come mop this up and move back to siege the capital. Beyond this, I do have quite a lot of armies I'm moving to the east. Now, what I'm considering going forward, first of all, we have a big problem with Lemuria up here. I don't actually know much about his location. I know he's up here somewhere, currently fighting Vattenheim. I've been speaking with the Vattenheim player at the moment to hopefully support him. What I'm thinking of doing is, since I don't have direct access, I may try first to send some of these cheap cave Nagas in here. I have a few forts here, mostly producing these cave Nagas. And I'm going to send these guys north to harass Patala a little bit. Harass Lemuria a little bit. Maybe if I can get a deal with Vattenheim, we can possibly open up one of these provinces where I can take one of these and send real armies north to help him out. But beyond that, I have a few other considerations. One consideration is moving into Tianqi. He looks like he's been having trouble a lot of this game. And frankly, I need to expand somewhere, so I may send these armies out to the east and attack him. He doesn't look like he has much going on at the moment, so that could be pretty good. And you can take a look at the armies I'm using right now. A lot of these Bandar warriors, the cudgels, a few elephants, and lots of crossbows. Now, Patala really loves crossbows, and a lot of these forts I have around here are just producing tons and tons and tons of crossbowmen. This is a big weakness for Patala, not having any kind of useful ranged units, so you really, really want to find independent crossbow provinces and fort them ASAP. I'm forting these ones all around here, trying to make as much use of them as possible, and really trying to maximize the amount of crossbows I can get as much as possible. Also, this province, which sometimes I will use to recruit heavy cavalry, but I think I would have preferred to go for crossbows there as well. What do we have here? I want to make sure I'm getting a mage in every province. I'm pretty low on funds at the moment. I spent a lot to upgrade some of my forts and build a new fort here. But let's move on for the moment. We'll take a look at a battle I had in Phlegron. You can see how some of my armies work. So at the time, I did not have gems on all of these mages. I just had gems delivered to them, so now they will be set up to cast elementals and such. So I was lacking my full power here. I wasn't able to summon that many earth or water elementals. But in general, I would like to be spamming a lot of water elementals and earth elementals as well. I did have this big Naga mage casting fire elementals, but mostly it seemed like they didn't help that much. Let's take a look at that battle here. Battle of Phlegra. So 63 losses. Most of these losses were Makardas, so it doesn't matter that much. Beyond that, I didn't really lose too many. A couple Bandar and one or two of these other ones. And he lost basically everything. So let's take a look at that. Now this is a fantastic scene. Big army here. My Nagas. These Nagas here I actually summoned. Just some extra water gems. I used to summon these. Probably not a good use of water gems since, again, I didn't really take much of a blast for Sacreds. Really, these Bandar cleaned up the most. They did the most work, and these crossbowmen. Let's take a look here. I can see a problem here. My fire elementals just got stuck behind all these Bandar, and I think they killed a few of them. There we go there. You can see I do have a bless for these Nagas. Just Blood Surge, basically. Blood Surge, a little bit of magic resistance, and then penetration bonus more for the mages. But not too much going on. Again, I'm only really recruiting Nagas from the caves, because then I don't have to waste 4 turns recruiting them. But really, these Cudgel Bandar, really saved the day for me. Again, the fire elementals didn't end up doing very much, aside from killing some of my Bandar. And also the crossbowmen did quite a lot as well. They're very useful. So great there. Hopefully I can take the capital soon, maybe in a turn or two. Again, I'm going to try to clean up these sea ogres next turn, and then send this group back to hopefully siege the capital. I'm going to ferry some gems out to them so they don't run low. And soon we'll see if we'll be having a war with Lemuria, and maybe even Tinchi as well. But for now, I think I'm going to end this video here, and I might update in the future regarding this game, see how things go. But for now, I think I'm going to end it, so see you again next time.